She slept in row 13, lulled by the steady drone of the engines after a week that had wrung every bit of energy from her. The flight home from her business trip felt endless, and even the glow of the screen in front of her couldn't keep her awake. Amelia pulled her jacket tighter, tucked the thin airline blanket under her chin, and drifted off as the cabin settled into the quiet rhythm of strangers sharing the same sky. Her dreams were light and scattered, pieces of home and half-remembered moments until a sharp chime cut through them. Moments later, the captain's voice filled the cabin. It was calm, but beneath it lay a tension that couldn't be hidden. He asked if anyone on board had flight experience, if there was a pilot among the passengers who could come forward immediately. The words lingered in the air, heavy and unsettling. People stirred, lifting their heads, exchanging confused looks. This wasn't a routine announcement, not turbulence or weather, not a welcome or reassurance. It was something else entirely, something that made the cabin feel smaller. Tighter, Amelia woke with a start, blinking and rubbing sleep from her eyes, still wrapped in warmth while unease rippled around her. Across the aisle, a man leaned toward his wife and whispered in disbelief if the captain had really just asked for a pilot. Someone behind them muttered nervously about what that could possibly mean. The quiet hum of the plane was now layered with murmurs that spread like ripples across water. Amelia sat up straighter, her heart beginning to beat faster as the same question echoed in her mind. Why would they need that? What had gone wrong up front? A flight attendant hurried down the aisle, her expression pale but controlled, repeating the request with urgency. Anyone with piloting experience was asked to make themselves known immediately. Passengers shifted, scanning faces, waiting for someone to stand, but no one moved. Row 13 suddenly felt exposed, like the center of attention, as silence pressed in from all sides. Amelia's pulse quickened. She had been asleep only moments ago, unaware, but now reality had snapped her fully awake. The truth she rarely spoke of, the part of her past she kept buried, was being called to the surface. Amelia wasn't only a businesswoman heading home. Years earlier, before her life had taken a different path, she had been a pilot, not commercial. But private, she had logged countless hours in the air, learned the language of instruments, the discipline of procedure, the delicate coordination between mind and hand that flying demanded, but that life felt distant now. Nearly a decade had passed since she had last sat in a cockpit. The flight attendant reached her row. Eyes searching, hope and fear mixed together. Amelia's mouth went dry. Doubt tightened around her chest. What if she wasn't capable anymore? What if her hand shook, or her mind froze? What if her hesitation cost lives? She thought of the more than 100 people on board, of families, and children of the elderly, and then of her own daughter waiting for her at home. The promise she had made to always return safely. The cabin grew more restless. A baby cried, a man gripped his armrest. Someone whispered a prayer. Amelia drew in a shaky breath and finally spoke. She didn't raise her voice, but it carried. She said she could fly. Relief washed over the attendant's face, and within moments Amelia was being guided up the aisle as every passenger watched her pass, silently placing their hope in a stranger. Her steps were steady, though her legs trembled. When the cockpit door opened, she stepped into a space that felt both familiar and alien. The captain was slumped in his seat, pale and sweating, clearly struck by a sudden medical emergency. A nurse from the cabin was already helping him. The first officer was still conscious and capable, but overwhelmed, his movements frantic, his composure slipping under pressure. Panic was something Amelia recognized instantly. He turned and stared at her in shock, explained quickly that she was a private pilot, that it had been years, but she knew enough to assist. There was no time left for doubt. The aircraft needed calm hands, and the first officer needed someone steady beside him. Amelia settled into the captain's seat, her fingers hovering over controls that had changed with time. Yet beneath the updates in technology, the essence of flying was the same. She felt the vibration of the engines, the pull of altitude, the familiar rhythm of being suspended between earth and sky. Something inside her stirred. Something she thought had been lost forever. The first officer began running through procedures, and Amelia listened closely, nodding as she helped stabilize the aircraft. Air traffic control crackled through the radio, guiding them step by step. While the captain was being cared for, the greater battle raged inside Amelia. Memories surged back. Training days, her first solo flight, the joy of breaking through clouds. She also remembered why she had walked away. Years ago, a tragic accident had taken her closest friend, another pilot. That loss had shattered her confidence and driven her from the cockpit. Now, against all odds, she was back. What began in row 13 had led her here, with countless lives depending on her willingness to face the fear she once fled. The passengers waited in anxious silence, unaware of the war being fought within her. As the minutes passed and the aircraft responded smoothly to her guidance, her confidence slowly returned. Each correct adjustment rebuilt a piece of her belief. The first officer glanced at her with gratitude that needed no words. He told her they had this together. Soon, the nearest airport came into view, and the descent began. The cabin tilted gently, and hearts raced across every row. Amelia's hands were damp, but her focus sharpened. She adjusted the flaps, guided the nose, listened to air traffic control as if their voices were lifelines. Ahead, the runway stretched out like a narrow promise. Under her breath, she whispered encouragement to herself, reminding herself that she could do this. The wheels hit the runway with a screech, followed by a jolt. Then the steady slowing as the plane rolled safely along the tarmac. Gasps turned into cheers, then tears. Strangers hugged. A child clapped. Someone cried out in thanks. Amelia closed her eyes, tears slipping down her face as the plane came to a stop. Emergency crews rushed forward. But inside the cabin, all eyes were drawn to one person. When Amelia finally walked back down the aisle, faces filled with awe and gratitude followed her. A little girl reached out, touching her hand, and softly told her she had saved them. In that moment, Amelia understood what she had forgotten for so long. Courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about moving forward, despite fear, when others needed you. She had fallen asleep in row 13, but life had awakened her in a way she never expected. And whenever life tries to convince you that you're no longer ready, strong enough, or capable, remember her. Remember the woman who thought her calling was behind her, only to discover that sometimes destiny calls you back when it matters most. And maybe, just maybe, it can do the same for you.